Well, let's get more on that story because Mark Meirowitz is a political analyst and a professor at State University of New York Maritime College. He now joins me. Mark, a very good day to you. You obviously heard that clip. Is it reflective of the general anger that New Yorkers are feeling in the wake of that ruling?
Well, this goes far beyond New York. This is a very significant decision that will affect the laws throughout the country, including in particular in 6 states, including New York, which have similar laws. So it is a watershed decision. Actually, Mayor Adams of New York City was so worried about this, but he said that this decision opens a river to feed the sea of violence, and he's very worried about the influx of guns into New York City in particular.
Yeah, I mean, to take us through the ruling itself, why did the court, or what made this law unconstitutional? Why did the Supreme Court reach that decision? And I'm asking this from the perspective of an outsider looking in. It does seem that you've got state law having no impact on Supreme Court thinking, which I would imagine to some individual states is a little bit off-kilter, shall we say. That's being polite.
Right. So our Constitution, the Second Amendment, actually says as follows: a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That's been interpreted by the Supreme Court to give an individual right to bear arms. The question in this case was whether you can carry weapons outside the home. And New York said, no, you can't, because you have to show a specific reason for getting a license. Supreme Court in this decision said you can't do that. You can't require a special reason because that's an inherent right under the Constitution. To your point, the Second Amendment does not just bind the federal government, it binds every single state. The Supreme Court interpretation of the Second Amendment is binding on every court, federal, state, and local in the entire country, and will affect in particular those 6 states that have similar laws like New York's, which requires someone to show special cause, proper cause to get a gun license outside the home.
Timing is everything in life, and this decision has occurred, just a handful of weeks or so after that appalling shooting in Uvalde, where you had children who were the main casualties. Now, obviously, that spurred the desire to have changes to the gun laws, but where does it leave it? Where does it leave all that energy and, above all, the shock that arose from these senseless killings?
Well, you're right about that. And, you know, there was a Senate action. 20 senators are working on a compromise bill to pass to do some gun control. But I just want to mention, importantly, in this decision, there is a concurring opinion by Justice Kavanaugh, which is very important because it says that the decision is not completely sweeping. There are limitations to it. So, for example, states can still regulate gun possession in sensitive places. Now, what does that mean? Well, it could mean a school, a government building, but it could also mean a mall. It could mean a concert. It could mean many other things. So that's important. That's still an opening. And the other opening is that, well, states, says Justice Kavanaugh, can still make rules for people to get gun licenses, fingerprinting, background checks. So what this decision does is still in question. I should also mention, and this came up in the press conference today with the mayor and the police commissioner, that this decision is not yet been implemented because it's going to be remanded back down to the lower courts for interpretation and further discussion. And the states will also, and New York Governor Hochul, as you pointed out, is outraged, but is going to call the legislature into session to try to find a way to fashion gun laws that will pass muster and scrutiny of the Supreme Court. So the game is not over. You're right about the outrage over these senseless and horrible school shootings. And that really, the problem in America is complicated politics. We've got, the Senate working on a bill. We've got the Supreme Court saying that a gun law is unconstitutional. It seems all so confused. our local officials, our federal officials, state officials are trying to deal with this scourge of violence, but in a way that is legal and lawful, and that's the rule of law. So this is really a very compelling and challenging situation right now for our leadership to figure out a way to keep us safe. And I'm a New Yorker,
Right.
and I think that that's a very scary situation. Mayor Adams even said, you know what? New York City's not the Wild West. He's talking about the cowboy movies where they have shootouts, at high noon. He said, this is not what New York City is going to become. We're not going to let it happen. So I think, the game it's not over, but this was very, very significant. But as I said, Justice Kavanaugh's concurring opinion really helps to limit the scope of this to allow some standards for where states and localities can pass laws that will pass muster.
Mark, I need to jump in here, but look, thank you so much for giving me your analysis of that decision, and I'm sure that it's a story that we will be returning to in the not-too-distant future.